Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining us this evening. Thanks for bearing with us while we were having some technical difficulties, but we've got everybody here and everything is working now, so we're excited to get started this evening. For those of you who don't know, I am John McDougall. I am the event coordinator at Murder by the Book in Houston. I am also the resident cozy reader. So before we bring out, I'm going to move this so I'm not bumping this table the whole time we're chatting. There we go. So before I bring Carolyn and Jess out, I just want to do some general store announcement stuff. For those of you who have not come to visit us in a while, we are now open for browsing. We've been open since Halloween, so we hope that you'll come visit us. We do ask that despite CDC guidelines that you still mask since young children can't get vaccinated just yet. And we do have a lot of customers who come visit us from MD Anderson. So we just want everybody to feel comfortable into the store. And we're also still trying to limit it to 6 or 8 people in the store at a time, just so it's, like I said, it's a small space and we want everybody to feel comfortable. But we hope that you will come hang out and come visit us. We are still doing curbside pickup. So if you are not comfortable getting out and about in the world, you can definitely do that. You can just visit us or just give us a call on the phone and we can get that books rent out to you. A couple of other things that we've got going on, just a general warning. Sometimes when we do these virtual events on Facebook, we will have people post spam links asking you to click away from the event to watch it. Don't do that. You're already watching. If I see any of those pop up, I will ban them, but sometimes people can click on them a little bit faster than I can. Also wanted to mention, if you guys were not aware, we have recently started a subscription box, and we've got 3 different options. There's a best of the month where we just send kind of any subgenre of mystery that we're excited about. This month's pick was Ashley Weaver's new book, and it just went out the other day. We also have one that's crime fiction classics, where we pick 2 kind of themed classics. They could even be modern classics. And the third is a Cozy of the Month subscription, which is curated by me. And that's one of the reasons I'm super excited to chat with Jess Dillon tonight. Her book, Death and Bloom, was my pick for May, and those, I think most people should have their boxes by now. Also wanted to mention we have a couple of upcoming cozy events. Next Tuesday on June 1st, we'll be talking with Nikesa Afia about her new book, Dead Dead Girls, and she'll be in conversation with me and Manan Sala. On June 26th, we're going to be doing 2 different Kensington Cozy Con panels, one specifically featuring paranormal mysteries and one specifically featuring mysteries set in bookstores and libraries. Then on July 2nd, I'm going to be chatting with Kate Carlisle and Ellie Alexander about their new releases. And on July 22nd, we'll be chatting with S.C. Perkins, Esme Addison, and Sherry Harris about their new releases. So we've got lots of really great stuff coming up. If you have questions for either of our authors this evening, please make sure you post those in the comments. I will be peppering those in and getting to those as you guys ask them. So questions for either of them, it can be about the new book, it can be about previous books, it can be about the writing process. So any questions you've got, please post those. So I'm going to get us started. I'm going to start with Jess and bring her out. How are you tonight, Jess?
Hi, I'm great, John.
Thanks so much for doing this with us.
Thank you for having me. I'm really excited to be here.
Congratulations on the release of Death and Bloom.
Thank you. Yes, just this week.
So for those of you who might not know, Jess Dillon is an environmental attorney by day and an author by night. As Jennifer David Hess, she wrote The Wiccan Wheel Mysteries, a cozy series with Kensington Publishing. Born and raised in Central Illinois, she now makes her home in Chicago with her musician husband, college-bound teen, and high-spirited corgi. In her spare time, Jess enjoys yoga, hiking, reading, and movie night with her family. And as we mentioned, the Death and Bloom is the first in the Flower House series that's just come out Tuesday. So now we're going to bring out Carolyn Haines. How are you tonight, Carolyn?
I'm good.
It's so good to see you again.
Not technically very smart, but I'm here.
You got here. That's all that matters. Congratulations on the release of Independent Bones, which came out last week.
Yes, thank you.
So Carolyn Haines, for those of you who also may not know, is the USA Today bestselling author of the Sarah Booth Delaney mystery series and a number of other books in mystery and crime, including the Pluto, Snitch, paranormal-historical mystery series, and Trouble, the Black Cat detective romantic suspense books. She is the recipient of the Harper Lee Award for Distinguished Writing, the Richard Wright Award for Literary Excellence, and the Mississippi Writers Guild Lifetime Achievement Award. She is a former journalist, bartender, photographer, farmhand, and college professor, and lives on a farm where she works with rescue cats, dogs, and horses. So to get us started this evening, let's start with Carolyn. Can you tell everybody a little bit about Independent Bones and what everybody's getting up to in their newest adventure?
Well, it's the 23rd book in the Sarah Booth series, and this one is set in Xenia. And it involves a college professor who comes to town to write a book. And she's kind of a firebrand. She is really, really a feminist. and outspoken about it. And when a guy who heckles her at a speech is found dead, and then it's discovered that there are other dead bodies along her past, it appears that she might be a serial killer. So she hires Sarah Booth and Tinky to prove her innocence.
Perfect. So you said 23rd book in the series. That's crazy.
I know.
So I have to say, I was remembering this earlier. I don't remember what book it came for, but Carolyn, you were one of the first authors that ever came to Murder by the Book after I got started there, where I actually got invited to come out to dinner with everybody afterwards. I didn't get to go because it was my husband's birthday and it was Pride weekend, so we had to go to the Pride Parade instead. But I was thinking about that today, that you were the first author I ever got invited to come along to dinner with.
Coming to Murder by the Book was one of the really wonderful events for me as a young mystery writer, because the bookstore has always made me feel so welcome and very special.
No. Awesome. And so, Jess, we said that Death in Bloom is the first in your new series. Can you tell everybody a little bit about it?
Yeah, so Death in Bloom, it's about Sierra Ravenswood. She was an aspiring singer-songwriter who tried to make it in Nashville. It didn't work out for her. She ended up back in her hometown of Aryville, fictional town, Aryville, Tennessee. She's a very positive person who believes in the law of attraction and trying to attract what she wants in life through affirmations, being kind of a positive person. So she goes to work at this flower shop where she had worked as a teenager. So she's thinking it'll be part-time, that, she still wants to follow her dreams and become a singer-songwriter. But her boss decides to run off on a trip, a geocaching trip, and leaves the store, leaves her behind, and she is running a class, a workshop, and lo and behold, someone dies. Someone, unfortunately, is murdered at the shop, and so she's stuck trying to figure out, what do I do at the shop, and yeah, so adventure ensues.
Awesome. So I love that you included geocaching, which I think is something that kind of not everybody knows a little bit about or knows about. So what made you want to include that in the series? Yeah,
the ideas kind of evolve. And so I knew that the eccentric boss, Felix, was going to go off on some kind of a treasure hunt. And I don't know, the idea just kind of, I don't know where things come from. I have a cousin and uncle who are into geocaching, and so I'm aware of it, and it always seems so cool. So, yeah.
So one of the things, this is actually kind of a question for both of you. Well, we'll start with Carolyn. So I recently read an article where a newer cozy author, and I won't name names, said that one of kind of the old rules of cozies was that they didn't tackle kind of serious issues. But Carolyn, that's something that you've done for years in your books, and Jess, you kind of also do that too with the issue of kind of development in small towns. It's going to kind of change kind of the face of small towns. So Carolyn, like we said, you've done that for years, and this new one's gotten lots of reviews, kind of mentioning like if people are interested in about the Me Too movement and stuff like that. So why do you think that cozy mysteries are kind of a safe place for you to be able to explore things like that?
Well, I think that I kind of straddle that cozy line. I'm not cozy, but there is humor, and I think the humor is what gets me classified in the cozy area, and the fact that they are characters that people want to be friends with. They're not hard-boiled detectives. They're not especially super bright. They're average people that could be my friend, your friend, to that. But Sarah, the books always do have a little dark heart in them, almost all of them.
And so is that dark heart, is that something that like as you're starting the book that you say like I want this to kind of be the theme of the book, or is it something that just comes to you as you're working on it?
No, I know it's what I want for the theme of the book.
And how about you, Jess?
Yeah, it's interesting. When I first started writing, I didn't know that I was writing a cozy mystery, although my books are probably a little cozier. And I was curious about that actually with Carolyn, that if she thought she was writing cozy mysteries in the beginning, because
I did not. I didn't even know I was writing a mystery. I was just writing a book, crazy.
Yeah. I think the term cozy mystery didn't even become popular until the 90s, maybe, if I remember right. So, so I soon realized, yes, that's kind of what I'm writing. Also, small town, amateur detective, and light on the violence. Usually the murder in my books is going to be a little less bloody, but
I have to say, I was delighted you killed that particular character off. He needed to die.
Yeah, kind of for similar reasons as in Independent Bones, maybe, just a little bit misogynistic, maybe.
Yeah. Some men just need killing.
And both Carolyn and Jess, while we're chatting, like if you guys have questions for each other, if you want to expand on something, feel free to jump in and ask each other questions as well. It's interesting, Carolyn, you mentioned that, there are a lot of authors who I think kind of got their start or were writing kind of in the 80s or 90s that maybe their series didn't start off as cozies, but then because of kind of, for whatever reason, for marketing and things like that, they kind of get marketed that way. Like, Mandy K. Andrews, like her early Kathy Hogan books are really great PI books, but they've got kind of these really bright covers. Or I've been, as anybody who follows me online knows, I've been working my way through the Leslie Meyer, Lucy Stone books. And like those, you never know whether or not like is the family pet gonna die in the book. Like in one of them, her son is a suspect. And so like you literally believe that like he could be like the killer because of just the way that she kind of plays with the conventions. So it's interesting to see kind of how some of the longer running series kind of get marketed cozies when that might not necessarily be kind of the way they started out. Pull up my questions here. So another thing I wanted to talk a little bit about is how do your day jobs kind of and I know, Carolyn, I know that you're now working with the animal rescue, so you're not a journalist anymore. But how do your day jobs influence kind of your stories and your writing? Let's start with Jess.
Wow. So I try to keep it separate as much as I can. I have a government job, and so I do, want to be very careful about not, just putting anything in my books that anyone's going to really recognize. But at the same time, I want the books to be realistic, and I think that there are issues that that I care about. I care about the environment. Obviously, I'm an environmental lawyer, so definitely there's going to be nature and that sort. And you mentioned sort of a land development zoning issue, and the victim in the book was on the zoning board of the town. So, there are a lot of strong feelings that people have about those issues.
And how about you, Carolyn?
Well, I just retired from teaching 4 years ago. I was teaching at the university, fiction writing. And now I am home with the animals. And, my day is controlled by what's happening with the animals. There's so many of them and so few of me. And I'm afraid if I sit down to write and they're hungry, I may not survive the day. So, yeah. I really prefer to write in the morning. I work better. I'm smarter. I'm fresher. By the evening, I'm just kind of like all the juice has been sucked out of me. But so I try to just go with the flow of the day-to-day life.
So, Jess, can you tell us a little bit about kind of the genesis of the story? So, you had an uncle that did geocaching, and so how did you decide that you wanted your character to why flower arranging? Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, that was almost by accident, actually. When I was first thinking about this series and this character who was going to be, into the law of attraction, I thought that maybe the story would be in a new age bookstore. But there are a lot of series already in bookstores, and so the editor just suggested a flower shop, and I thought it fit perfectly. because it's bright and cheerful. And so I don't know, or didn't previously know a lot about arranging flowers or working in a flower shop. So that's been fun. It's been a learning experience for me, but it's worked out.
So what kind of research did you do? Did you like take some flower arranging classes?
Not yet. I actually plan to. Most of my research has been online, but I have connected with real life florists and definitely plan to, incorporate some more of that.
Awesome. And Carolyn, can you tell, for anybody who's watching who might not be familiar with the series, can you tell them kind of where the idea for Sarah Booth Delaney and all of your characters came from?
Well, I had done a couple of just novels for Dutton, and desperation is where they came from. But I was sitting at the computer, and I have a window right here that looks out on my pasture, and I was looking at my horses, thinking, "You better come up with something to write, because you need a book contract." And I heard these two characters bickering with each other. And honestly, I had no visual. It was just completely oral. And I just started typing what they were saying. And pretty soon it came into focus, and it was Sarah Booth and Jetty the ghost. Because when I first heard her, I didn't know she was dead. But as it turned out, I just really dove into the story, and I connected with those characters in a way that they kind of told me them bones, the story, and I just transcribed it.
Wow.
And that's why I didn't know I was writing a mystery until, my agent sold it, and they wanted a mystery series, and I'm like, oh no, I don't know how to plot. I was never, I never thought I had the brains to plot a book. But I think that's where you have such an advantage, Jess, because you've trained your brain as a lawyer. You have trained that logical side of your brain where plot comes from. And people like me who I have a lopsided brain. I don't have a lot of development on that side.
Oh, your books are so well plotted, though. I was wondering, how much you do that in advance, or because
I work really, really hard at those plots, but I also kind of let the books take their own. I trust them. You got to trust that story a little bit. So I do. And sometimes I regret it, but sometimes I don't.
That's a good way of looking at it. I actually, I think of myself as more of a discovery or pantser, actually, because I'll think of a certain plot points in advance, but maybe it is sort of the logical brain that allows me to plot as I go a little bit.
So Carolyn, then, so you don't think that your work as a journalist before, you don't think that kind of helped you with kind of the plotting?
No, because, an article for a newspaper is mostly 9 paragraphs.
Oh.
Just about anybody can sustain a story for that long.
Yeah.
But when you're looking at 90,000 words, that's a little more, you've got to have a little more skeleton to hang it on, a little more plot. But I think that my work as a journalist taught me to respect deadlines and to write every day, whether I felt like it or not. It gave me a very good work ethic.
So we mentioned before, we said that, this is the 23rd book in the series. How has the character of Sarah Booth surprised you now versus kind of where she started out?
Well, let's see. She is, she's smarter than I thought she was to begin with. She really is. And she has more insight into people than I initially thought she did. And I thought at first she was going to be kind of a smart ass, and she's evolved into a character that has more depth to her. But the one who has really changed is Tinky. She really has changed.
So do you keep like a series Bible or like any kind of idea so that way like when we last saw characters or things like that, or do you just kind of fly by the seat of your pants when you're doing that?
Do I look smart? No, I should have done that. I should have made a diorama of my town where I knew where everything was. But But you know what is so wonderful is if I really am in desperate need of some character information, I can post it on Facebook, and somebody on Facebook will know the answer, and they'll tell me.
And so, Jess, we mentioned in your bio that you had previously written another series. So as you were starting this series, do you have now that you've already done one that's finished, do you have like a series arc in mind, or are you still just kind of discovering as you go?
That's a good question. There's both, a little bit of both. Yeah. I guess with the Felix geocaching adventure, that's going somewhere. But it's not a major part of the story. It's kind of the secondary mystery. So I guess a little bit of both, but we'll see.
Yeah. And can you tell everybody a little bit about your other series?
Sure. It's called The Wiccan Wheel Mysteries, and it's under the name Jennifer David Hesse, rather than Jess Dillon. And in that series, the main character is a practicing Wiccan. So there is... It's a cozy mystery series, and it revolves around the Wheel of the Year, which are the pagan holidays, so the solstices and the equinoxes and the cross-border holidays in between. So each book is around one of those holidays.
And so what do you think, if somebody picked up those and now they're reading this one, what do you think that your two series have in common? What makes them kind of a you book?
Well, I guess besides the fact that they're both cozy mysteries, so they're both in small towns, and there's an amateur detective, that aspect. I would say there's a little bit of I wouldn't say really magic in the whole law of attraction can be a little magical. I mean, Sierra believes in signs and synchronicities and that kind of thing. So that's kind of similar to the witchcraft aspect of the first series.
Yeah.
And there's also a character of Sierra's grandmother, is her granny, who lives in the mountains and practices a little bit of herbal magic, maybe, although she doesn't call it magic. It's just the tradition.
Yeah, I love her grandmother, and I love kind of all of those, like just the advice that she gives to her, the way like she interprets signs around her. So where did you come up with kind of all of that stuff?
I would say just research. Mainly read lots of books, and some of it, I guess, from my own life a little bit. I don't want to, they're not autobiographical, obviously, but I do. I think it's cool to when you have little coincidences that it seems like, maybe it's not just a coincidence. So
yeah,
that's fun.
And Carolyn, because somebody will inevitably ask, do you think that people can jump in with independent bones, or do you think they should go back and start with them bones?
Well, I worked very hard to make each book a complete and total story. But for people who really love to see the characters grow and change, then they probably should start with the first one. But I think you can catch up to speed with everything, just about anywhere in the series. But a lot of people derive pleasure from starting at the very beginning,
Yeah. And how about you, Carolyn? When you read, are you I'm going to start at the beginning of a series and work your way through them, or will you just pick up a random book in a series and give it a shot?
Well, sometimes I don't know that there's a lot more books before it. Somebody will recommend a book and I'll pick it up and start reading it. And then if I'm hooked in the story, I'm not going to stop and go to the first one. But if somebody goes, it's a 12-book series and the first one is, then I'm probably going to take the first one.
Yeah. And how about you, Jess?
Yeah, for sure. I would try to start at the beginning of a series. I'm the same way. I try to make each book stand alone, but there's inevitably going to be a couple of spoilers, I think. As some of the characters from the first book, so you see them in later books, so they stuck around.
Yeah. So Carolyn, Kathy wants to know: does Independent Bones give us any new clues about what happened to Sarah Booth's parents?
No, it does not. But I do intend to resolve that issue before I die.
And we've had a couple of people want to ask. We'll start with Jess. People want to know what's something that you read recently that you loved, and who are some of your favorite writers?
Oh gosh. Well, can I say Carolyn Haines for sure? Oh gosh, I read so much. I read old books and new books and nonfiction and fiction and oh man. So now I'm gonna blank out. You'll have to come back to me before I start naming names.
How about you, Carolyn?
Of course, my all-time favorite, James Lee Burke. So, I stay up to speed with him. And of course, I love Miranda James's books. I'm reading Jess's book right now and thoroughly enjoying it. And, I'm still that old teacher, and I'm reading a couple of unpublished manuscripts from some former students, trying to give them, what little advice I can.
So Wesley is commenting that, it's very easy to jump in with the Bone series and catch up. So if anybody was also wondering about that, we have several people that say that it's easy to jump in and do that. So random, I guess, humble brag story, but so Dean Miranda James just sent me the manuscript of his new book, and he was like, "Hey, there's one page in this that you're really gonna enjoy." And it turns out that he has dedicated the book, the new one, to my husband and I. And I was like, "Thanks, Dean. Thanks for making me sob behind the register at work when I saw that." So I'm super excited for the new one. We've been chatting with him. Don't anybody quote me on this. I know I'm saying it like on YouTube, but we've been chatting with him about potentially having him come visit us in August when the new book comes out, since we might be able to do some in-store stuff again. So we're hoping that might happen. So, and Carolyn, I know that you and Dean are friends, and you're friends with other mystery writers. So if you get stuck with a plot point or anything like that, do you bounce it off of other writers?
I do.
Yeah,
I do. And I'm fortunate that, and my agent too. And truly, I have a wonderful editor at St. Martin's that I can pull into the quagmire if necessary.
How about you, Jess?
Yeah, I would say same with my agent and editor. I would probably go to them. Also, I have my family, my parents and my sisters are my beta readers, and I trust them to let me know, be honest, if something's not working.
So I think Jess, you and I were talking about this before we actually went live. But so the second book in your series comes out later this year. How did you know that they were going to come out that quick, and did you just get right into the next one after you finished the first one?
Yeah, so there were estimated dates to turn in. I have a 3-book contract. I think it's just fairly common to start. Yeah, but they still creep up on you, though, the deadlines. I wasn't really thinking about it so much, but yeah, so I turned in the first manuscript and got started on the second one. And so I was writing the second one before I even had comments back from my editor on the first one, kind of just hoping that, it was going to work out.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And so did when you got the comments back, did that change anything in the second book for you?
No, luckily it did not. So.
And so, Carolyn, you've been doing it for a while. You were doing a new kind of regular Sarah Booth Delaney, and then you were doing a Christmas one, and you have other series that you do in the Trouble. So how do you balance kind of all of those different series and all of those different books?
It is, well, I've had a lot of family illness lately too, and that's been hard, but, I'm a very disciplined writer. I write every day, and that's helpful if you're going to take on, 1 or 2 books a year. Mm-hmm. But I just write. Sarah Booth is kind of the thing, the first and foremost. That's the thing that is at the top of the priority list. Mm-hmm. And then if I have time, I really enjoy just stretching a little bit as a writer and exploring those other 2 series.
Yeah.
It keeps me fresh.
Mm-hmm. And I know that you've also done some really great kind of gothic horror standalones, and it's kind of amazing just the body of work that you have.
It's kind of scary. Yeah. This girl has no friends.
Which we know is not true. We know everybody loves Carolyn. That's one of the, it's really great to be able to connect and do these virtual events, but it's also kind of, some of them hurt a little bit more than others because, like we said before, Carolyn, you've been coming to the store for so long. We have, there are regular customers that come in that you've known for years. And so we always miss that part of it.
Well, maybe next year we can do something in person.
Yeah, definitely. So Amy wants to know, Carolyn, when is Tinky having that baby?
She definitely needs to read Independent Bones.
Perfect.
Poor Tinky has been pregnant for 3 years. It's just unendurable.
So at what point did you decide that you were going to need to potentially like slow down the aging of the character since the series was going to be so long?
Well, I didn't know any. This is happenstance, but it just. When I started writing, a book would be set in May, and then the next book would be set in June because I wanted to hook it to some event that was happening. Okay. And as it turned out, there are 23 books, and Sarah Booth and them have only aged like 20 months, and I'm a quarter of a century older. It is grossly unfair. It's really unfair.
And so, Jess, since you're just starting out on a series, are those things that you're thinking about while you're working on the books?
A little bit. I think Carolyn is just so brilliant at this because it's like you want your characters to grow, but you don't want them to grow like out too far. So it's like there's got to be, like with love interest, for example. I'm always tempted to just. There's a happy ending, so let the characters go right off into the sunset. But you don't want to end your series, so I'm thinking just a little bit, and we'll see.
Awesome. So Sarah has a question for you, Jess. She wants to know. This is a great question, Sarah. Thank you. She wants to know what it's like to write such an optimistic protagonist during a global pandemic.
Yeah. Wow. Well, it's that's a good question. I do have to kind of get into the fictional world of the book and not, think too much, I guess, about what's going on in the news and that sort of thing. Because in the book world, people aren't wearing masks or social distancing and that sort of thing. But you don't want it to be too, tied to a set time like that. It's got to be more timeless. So that's the tricky part.
So Kathy wants to know, Carolyn, how do you pronounce Riassa? Riassa? Raissa. Okay. Perfect. And
now wait a minute. Yep. She's asking someone from Bluestone, Mississippi, how to pronounce a word. I pronounce it Raissa. That doesn't mean that's correct.
Well, she says apparently that Kathy can't spell it or pronounce it. So. And Jess, Renee wants to know why, for this series, did you decide to use a different name for the books?
So I have a new publisher, and it's kind of a fresh start. It's not that uncommon. So it wasn't really my choice, but I got to choose the name, so that was cool.
So how did you choose the name?
So my real name is Jennifer Hesse, and so sometimes people mistakenly call me Jessie, and so the Jess just kind of keeps my first initial and sounds similar. And then Dylan is a family name. My mom's maiden name was Dylan with a different spelling. So I just went with the Bob Dylan Thomas spelling. Yeah.
I think it's always fun. I think one of the fun things about cozies is, whenever we get new ones in, and if it's a name that we don't recognize and it's the first in the series, a lot of times we'll immediately flip to the copyright page because we really want to know who this is. And I just found out today, I don't know if I'm not going to say what it is because I don't know if it's public knowledge, but I just found out today that a book that I just recently really liked was written by an author who had written 3 books that I really enjoyed too. So it's always fun when you like something, you're like, oh, well, this person wrote that. So of course I like this because I like their other stuff. It's always fun. And it's kind of neat now that, it's not as kind of such a big secret, back before the internet where you didn't, you couldn't easily figure these things out. So while for anybody else that's watching, if you guys tuned in late, have been chatting with Carolyn Haines and Jess Dillon. So if you guys have any other questions out there for them about these books, their previous books, please definitely leave those in the chat. For Jess, so you said, you're originally thinking kind of new age bookstore for this, and then you decided to move to flower arranging. Do you have any other kind of series hooks or things that you might want to tackle at some point?
You mean in a new series?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Oh gosh, I haven't thought that far ahead. That's a good question, but I can't say that I have yet.
Yeah. And Carolyn, Wesley wants to know, are any of your characters based on childhood friends or acquaintances from growing up in the rural community in southern Mississippi?
The characters do have some touches of my friends in them, mm-hmm. and a whole lot of me, in every character, especially the villains. Because I have a black little heart, and I'm villainous at my core. But like the book before this one, The Devil's Bones, mm-hmm. my cousin, Eric Ward, is named in the book, and he is the prime suspect. He foolishly wanted to be in the book. So I said, okay, I'll give you a ride, my friend. So.
Awesome. And Carolyn, so how did you come up with the title for Independent Bones, or really titles for any of the books? Is it something that you had in mind already, or do you take it to the publisher and they help you figure it out?
Hannah helped me with Independent Bones, my editor. Mm-hmm. My favorite title so far is Game of Bones.
Yeah.
That was just so easy.
Yeah.
That was so mm-hmm. easy. But we have come up with some cockamamie title ideas that St. Martin's has saved me from myself and not allowed me to use.
So now I have to ask, what was the most cockamamie one that they saved you from that you didn't go with?
Well, this was given to me from one of my reader friends. A Star Is Bone. Yeah. So. Yeah.
And Jess, how about you? Was Death in Bloom, was that a title that you had started with, or how did you come up with the title?
I think I came up with it. I came up with a list of ideas, and then my agent helped me narrow it down. Yeah. There are other books that have flower themes, so I didn't want to, use something that was already out there. Mm-hmm. So.
I also love, Jess, that you take the cozy mystery title Love of Puns to like the next level with one of the characters in your book who is a huge fan of puns too. I thought that was really fun.
Yeah, thank you. That kind of did come out of the fact that I knew that, people, cozy readers love puns, and I do too. And I couldn't, use, I didn't really have a punny title, so I just decided to kind of stick it in the book.
So who is your favorite secondary character to write?
I probably have to say Granny. She's got these superstitions that she believes in. She's very independent and quirky. So yeah, she's been fun. But they're all fun, in their own way. Gus the dog is fun, of course.
And how about you, Carolyn? You have all of these great characters. Who are some of your favorite secondary ones to write?
I've really come to enjoy Harold, strangely enough, because in the first book I didn't like him very much at all, but he's grown on me. And I really enjoy the dogs. Roscoe is a joy to write because he is so bad. He is so much like my little dog, Lily, who I picked this dog up at a four-way stop in a small town, just in the middle of the road, a little lost puppy. Couldn't find who she belonged to, went to the local vet clinics, nobody knew. So I took her home, and she was so sweet and innocent and gentle for about 4 days. And then she turned into the Tasmanian devil. And I found a family to take her, and they even took her to like obedience school. They were serious. She was so bad, they brought her back to me. They returned her. She was rejected. So I've had her 6 years.
Wow.
She's very much like Roscoe.
Yeah. So Tracy wants to know, Carolyn, do you have any new Pluto Snitch news?
I am so far behind on that series. I have the book outlined, and it is, it's about a possessed doll, and it takes place in New Orleans, and it's going to be really scary if I can just find time to write it.
And Wesley just says, Carolyn, outside of the Bone series, Touch is his favorite novel of all of them.
I'm getting ready to bring Touch, Summer of the Redeemers, and Judas Burning back in print. Nice. Yeah, probably this fall. We've been working on the files and trying to get them, ready to reissue.
Awesome. That's one of the nice
things. A lot of work.
Yeah, it is. It's one of the nice things about kind of technology and people being able to, with small presses and self-publish, be able to kind of bring stuff out, and so things kind of can come back. It's been really great to see kind of all of the classic Golden Age mysteries that have been re-released and get to see people kind of rediscover those things. So we were talking about Roscoe, and Jess, you mentioned the dog in your book. So as you're writing, cozy readers and lighter mystery readers kind of really look for those kind of animal connections in the book and the things that they love about them. So how do you balance making sure that you have enough of the dog or the pets in the books versus being able to also move the story around? Let's start with Jess.
Yeah, so it's interesting because I try to make it as realistic as possible. So I keep thinking about, we have a dog, we have a corgi. And so I keep thinking, the corgi needs a lot of attention. He wants to be where we are at all times. And so I'm always wanting to put little things in there, like, where is he at all times? And but at the same time, you don't want to bog down the story by describing every move of the dog. So it's just a little bit of balancing act.
And how about you, Carolyn?
Well, some of the books don't really have, if Sarah Booth is not in Xenia, normally they don't have the animals in them. So, like Jess, I try to keep it realistic and not let the dogs be, the dogs and the cat be totally, overwhelm the story. But if they have a legitimate place to play a role, to give them that stage to do it.
Yeah. I currently have a cat trying to nibble on my toes and threatening to knock over my ring light. So
I got a dog, right? Let's see. I can show you. Maybe. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, that's Beulah. She's a dog I found in the woods.
Oh my goodness. So Tracy wants to know, Carolyn, will Kelly Milani make any future appearances?
Well, who?
Kelly Milani.
Oh,
was that you?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
That's the main character from the Wiccan Wheel mysteries. It's Kelly. Yeah. For a minute, I was like, I forgot. It's been so long. Is the question will there be crossover?
Yeah.
I've thought about it. I mean, I don't have any current plans, but it wouldn't be outside the realm of possibility, because the first series takes place in Southern Illinois, so not too far off from Eastern Tennessee. It could happen. We'll see.
Juliet Blackwell does that. She did this series years ago with her sister her character was I'm completely blanking on her, Annie Kincaid. She was a faux finisher. And so that series is done now that kind of all of her books kind of take place in the same world. Her haunted home renovation series, every once in a while, they talk about how they pulled Annie Kincaid in to help do faux finishing. That's always, I love it when authors are able to just that one little mention. So Jess, can you tell us anything about the second book in the series?
I can tell you it will be called Petals and Poison, and there will be another murder. I guess, I don't know if I've seen. I'm trying to remember what the blurb on the back says. I don't want to give away too much.
I'm looking on the on the store's website, and it's a super short description. It says Petals and Poison is the second in a colorful, cozy mystery series from Jess Dillon, set in a flower shop with a knack for attracting trouble as well as customers.
There you go.
Yeah.
So we'll have the same, a lot of the same character in the main core characters. We'll see again.
Awesome. And for anybody interested, that comes out November 30th. I'm super excited that we get another one. That's one of the things I really love too recently is that a lot of publishers are doing the cozy mysteries like every 6 or 9 months, so you don't have to wait too long to get your next fix. How about you, Carolyn? What do you have coming up next?
I just reached the halfway point today in the next Sarah Booth book, Lady of Bones, which is set in New Orleans and involves a death cult. Fun, light,
So I can't even imagine what kind of research you're doing for that. What kind of research are you doing for that one?
A lot of fun stuff. So, and I'm looking forward to BoucherCon because I'll be in New Orleans, so I can actually stroll the streets. Are y'all going to be there?
I don't know. I've never been. I don't know.
You should totally go. It's a blast. We were not, McKenna and I had been talking, and originally when we were making plans, we were not going to go. And I don't know if one of us might end up. We might bark-on it. We haven't quite 100% decided yet, because when they were the early register for books and stuff was, or register for book vendors and all of that was still kind of early in the pandemic, and we weren't 100% sure how comfortable we were doing that. So we might actually show up, but it's always so much fun. I might just ask for a couple of days off and just go to New Orleans for the weekend and do it anyway. So for what, again, just to recap for anybody that might have joined us late, we have been chatting with Carolyn Haines, whose newest book, Independent Bones, has just come out last week. And we've been chatting with Jess Dillon, whose new book, Death in Bloom, is the first in her Flower House mystery series. And it just came out this Tuesday. We have copies of both of them in the store. So if you haven't ordered your copies yet, you can either give us a call or you can order those on murderbooks.com. When we're done with the event, if you missed any part of it, you can check out the store's Facebook and YouTube channel, because the events will be archived and you can check those out. While you're on the YouTube channel, I have created a cozy mystery playlist. So if you have missed any of our recent events with other cozy mystery authors, I have got them all in one place. You can see we did an event with Carolyn and Donna Andrews, Ellie Alexander, and I feel like I'm forgetting somebody else in December, revolving around Christmas cozies. And then we have chatted with Carolyn a couple times since the pandemic started. So if you want to hear her talk about anything that any of the Bones books she's released in the last year and a half, we've got interviews with all of those up there. I also wanted to mention, I didn't do this in my original intro stuff. I forgot. If you guys are out there, if you were looking for more cozy recommendations, I have recently started my own personal cozy Instagram. It's John's Cozy Corner. I've dropped links. I hope you'll give it a follow. I've been posting reviews about things. I just did a recap of all of the subscription boxes. We've been posting about new releases. So it's kind of mine, having fun with it, kind of related to the store too. But if you guys are looking for some more cozy mystery stuff out there, definitely check that out. Oh, Donna Braswell just said, Carolyn is the best, isn't she? Carolyn is the best. It's been so great to get to connect with her. And Jess, it's been so fun to get to chat with you tonight. I'm so excited for this new series, and I can't wait to see kind of what happens with the rest of the books.
Thank you so much.
And thank you, Carolyn, for joining us again. It's so good to see you.
Thank you. Thank you. It's good to see you too, John. I miss seeing you in person. And Jess, I'm really, really enjoying your book.
Oh, thank you so much. That means a lot. There's a lot coming from you. I appreciate it.
Well, y'all both have a good night and take care, and we'll see you soon.
Thank you, John. Bye-bye.